This time has above all reminded William and me to reflect and be grateful for the simple yet important things in life, which so many of us often take for granted.
Queen Camilla is caught in the dead of night secretly packing and smuggling away a treasure trove of priceless heirlooms belonging to the late Queen Elizabeth II and Princess Diana, aiming to erase all traces and turn the historic Windsor Lodge into her private domain, braving threats of high-level power and media suppression. Catherine, Princess of Wales, quietly assembled an iron-tight dossier of evidence. This paved the way for Prince William to deliver a devastating counterstrike, mobilizing security forces to seal every gate of the estate, catching the disguised convoy of relics red-handed, and issuing an irreversible eviction order. Will the crown on her head save Camilla when her private gold key is humiliatingly stripped from her before dozens of witnesses? What secret legal clause hidden within the original agreement stripped this overreaching queen of all her privileges overnight? And what steep price awaits those who dare desecrate the sacred legacy of Princess Diana? The ancient stone walls of Windsor Lodge had long stood as a symbol of tranquility and solemnity for the royal family. For years, it had cradled the warmest memories of Queen Elizabeth II in her final days, as well as a sacred sanctuary, preserving portraits from the youth of the late Princess Diana. Yet in just a few short months since taking over the management of the property, Queen Camilla had turned it into an impenetrable fortress, dedicated to her own luxury and personal ambition. She began by squandering millions of pounds from the royal maintenance budget on reckless demolitions and renovations tailored to her whims. Centuries-old oak paneling was stripped away and replaced with garish gold-painted drywall. Original marble floors were torn apart. Worse still, Camilla ruthlessly dismissed loyal housekeepers and butlers who had served the crown for over 30 years. Arthur, the devoted elderly butler, who had personally tended to Queen Elizabeth II, was the first to be cast out onto the street overnight without a penny of severance solely because he adamantly refused to hand over the keys to the family heirloom vaults to Camilla's private contractors. Having eliminated every honest set of eyes, Camilla established a heavy security perimeter, strictly controlled by her own inner circle. A rigid lockdown order was enacted barring royal family members from freely entering without prior approval from her office. The sprawling estate steadily turned into an isolated enclave, concealing the illicit activities unfolding behind its thick, permanently bolted wooden doors. Early one morning, while traveling through the Windsor area on official business, Catherine, Princess of Wales, made an impromptu visit to the estate to prepare for a family reunion scheduled for later that month. The moment she crossed the threshold into the main hall, Catherine immediately sensed an unsettling chill. The familiar, elegant warmth was gone, replaced by the pungent stench of fresh paint and the chaotic disarray of reckless demolition. Stepping into the grand drawing room, Catherine froze at the sight of a gaping void on the honorary wooden dais. The antique silver writing desk, a priceless wedding gift deeply treasured by the late Queen Elizabeth II, had vanished entirely. Beside it, the exquisite jewel-encrusted mantel clock that had marked every historic milestone of the dynasty was no longer above the fireplace. Worst of all, on the opposite wall, the silver photo frames capturing Princess Diana's radiant smile alongside her two young princes had been ripped down, leaving behind bare nails and unsightly streaks of dust. Her instincts signaling foul play, Catherine did not alert the guards immediately. Instead, she slipped quietly down the service corridor, leading to the storehouse at the back of the lodge. The rustling of packing tape and the hurried sound of hammering caught her attention. Peering from behind a half-ajar wooden door, Catherine witnessed Camilla's chief aide directing a team of movers wrapping large wooden crates. Inside a partially opened crate lay the antique silver writing desk, priceless oil paintings, and an array of velvet boxes containing Diana's personal keepsakes. Everything was being hastily packed and taped shut to wipe away every trace before other royal family members arrived. The brazen theft and dispersal of the royal family's sacred heritage was unfolding right before her eyes. A surge of indignation welled up inside Catherine, but her trademark poise and the steadfast resolve of a mother and future queen consort prevented her from acting on impulse. Drawing a deep breath, Catherine smoothed her coat and strode directly into Camilla's private office on the second floor. As the door swung open, Camilla was seated leisurely on a red velvet armchair, flipping through high-end magazines, entirely unbothered by what was transpiring in the warehouse below. Caught off guard by Catherine's unannounced arrival, the smile on Camilla's lips instantly froze, replaced by a cold, defensive glare. Catherine wasted no words. Looking straight into the woman's eyes, she spoke in a firm, measured tone, demanding a clear explanation for the disappearance of the silver writing desk, the late Queen's antique clock, and all of Princess Diana's relics. Catherine laid down an uncompromising ultimatum. Every crate boxed in the basement had to be unsealed and returned to its rightful honored place that very day, to avoid an unnecessary crisis of honor within the family. In stark contrast to Catherine's composure, Camilla let out a sneering laugh, scornful and arrogant. She rose abruptly, planted her hands on the desk, and glared at Catherine. Camilla bluntly declared that Windsor Lodge was now under her absolute dominion, and that any item within its grounds was hers to dispose of as she saw fit. To Camilla, Catherine's politeness and restraint were nothing more than signs of naivety and weakness. In a venomous tone, Camilla launched into heavy-handed intimidation. Sneering at Catherine's background, she reminded her that she was merely a young daughter-in-law whose sole duty was to retreat to Adelaide Cottage and raise her children rather than poke her nose into the business of the woman holding the highest rank in the royal household. Gritting her teeth, Camilla warned that if Catherine dared breathe a single word to the press or incite others in the family to cause trouble, she would turn life for Catherine and her children into a living hell of bitter isolation. Unfazed by the brazen insults, Catherine did not retreat an inch, nor did she betray the slightest flicker of hesitation. Her gaze remained sharp as a blade cataloging every haughty gesture. The moment Camilla turned her back to reach for a glass of water, Catherine's sharp eyes caught a glimpse of shipping manifests sitting on the edge of the desk. On the bold red labels of the outbound shipments, the destination was unmistakable. A private retreat estate owned exclusively by Camilla's personal family in a distant countryside. Refusing to waste another word that might tip off her adversary, Catherine gave a slight composed nod and turned on her heel, exiting the room. The conversation was over, but the flames of an uncompromising war had been ignited. The usurper had unmasked herself, and the time for justice had arrived. Leaving Windsor Lodge, Catherine drove straight back to their residence to meet Prince William. Inside their high-security study, she recounted every detail she had witnessed: the stripped rooms, the sealed wooden crates in the basement, Camilla's belligerent threats, and crucially, the address of the private estate on the shipping labels. Listening to every word his wife spoke, William clenched his fists tightly, veins bulging at his temples. Misappropriating royal funds for personal indulgence was already intolerable, but the desecration and attempted liquidation of the sacred heirlooms of his late mother, Princess Diana, and his beloved grandmother had crossed his ultimate red line. Yet fury did not cloud William's judgment. He knew that to bring down a cunning, seasoned operator like Camilla, unsubstantiated claims would not suffice. They needed an iron-tight dossier of undeniable evidence. A covert investigation worthy of elite operatives was immediately launched in absolute secrecy. That night, William drove an unmarked vehicle to a safe house on the outskirts of London to meet Arthur, the elderly butler, recently sacked by Camilla. In the small room, moved to tears by the prince's presence, the old butler handed William the leather-bound ledger he had meticulously kept across his 30 years of service. It contained a comprehensive catalog, archived photographs, and unique inventory serial numbers for every single antique in the lodge, from Queen Elizabeth's silver writing desk to Diana's jewel-encrusted photo frames. Arthur also provided memorandums detailing the unlawful orders Camilla had pressured him to execute in order to misappropriate royal property. Simultaneously, Catherine coordinated with an unswervingly loyal royal security officer to extract hidden surveillance feeds. Although the lodge's primary camera network was controlled by Camilla's loyalists, the automated license plate recognition cameras stationed along the perimeter forest gates operated independently. When the 2:00 a.m. recordings were pulled up on the computer screen, the dark truth was laid completely bare. Unmarked black box trucks were repeatedly slipping through the side gates in the dead of night, hauling heavy cargo away from the estate. Over 48 non-stop hours, William and Catherine consolidated all the material into a thick, formidable file. Every forged renovation invoice, totaling hundreds of thousands of pounds, every arbitrary ban imposed on royal family members, the roster of veteran staff wrongfully dismissed, and above all, high-definition photographic proof of the smuggled treasures were methodically indexed. The trap of justice was set ready to snap shut on the mastermind. With the full body of incriminating evidence secured, William turned to securing the ultimate legal instrument to strip Camilla of all authority over Windsor Lodge. He knew Camilla prided herself on having King Charles's verbal consent, believing that shield would protect her against any offensive. However, in the royal realm, verbal assurances never held weight against ancient covenants signed before the Privy Council. William went in person to the Crown Estate's classified archives, where original title deeds and occupancy charters for all royal estates were preserved. After hours of combing through decades-old master documents, William unearthed the original deed of occupancy for Windsor Lodge, established during the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. As his eyes scanned the formal embossed text, William uncovered a fatal clause that Camilla and her inner circle had completely overlooked. The covenant explicitly stated that the right of occupancy and residence at Windsor Lodge was strictly a conditional privilege, not permanent property ownership. Crucially, under the Heritage Protection Clause, the document stipulated should the beneficiary commit any act damaging the original architecture, arbitrarily dismiss long-standing staff without just cause, or demonstrate any intent to seize or unlawfully remove historic royal treasures, the right of occupancy would be instantly revoked without condition. Most importantly, this clause vested sole jurisdiction and enforcement power to repossess the estate directly in the heir apparent, the Prince of Wales, without requiring any intervention, consultation, or approval from the reigning monarch. This was the decisive strike and absolute weapon that neutralized any personal interference or protection Camilla had counted on. Holding the original covenant in hand, William returned to Catherine. The couple locked eyes, a cold determination shining within them. There would be no negotiations, no awkward family summits to entertain deceitful excuses. What they were about to deliver was a swift surgical strike, sharp and unyielding as a blade sealing the usurper's ambitions. Early the following morning, the tranquility of Windsor Lodge was shattered by the unexpected arrival of two senior officers from the Royal Protection Command. Without warm greetings or polite pleasantries, an official vehicle bearing the Prince of Wales's insignia pulled up sharply before the main portico. The lead officer in full uniform, with a face as cold as ice, marched straight into the Grand Hall and delivered a red wax-sealed leather portfolio directly into the hands of Camilla's estate manager. Inside was a formal eviction notice bearing Prince William's firm signature. Camilla's rights of residency and access to Windsor Lodge were terminated immediately with a strict 24-hour deadline to remove personal belongings and surrender all keys to the security detail. The shocking development detonated like a bomb across Camilla's staff. Instead of showing remorse, a blind fury erupted in the mind of a woman accustomed to holding unchallenged sway. To Camilla, this was not merely an eviction notice, it was a direct slap to her supreme status. She remained convinced that with her current title and the king's verbal backing, no one in the realm, not even the heir to the throne, held the power to cast her out through the estate gates. Stripped of her composure and aristocratic veneer, Camilla immediately ordered her chauffeur to speed toward Kensington Palace to stage a preemptive strike. The car screeched to a halt in the courtyard of the Wales residence. Brushing past the gatekeeper's objections, Camilla stormed through the long corridors and threw open the doors to the second-floor drawing room. Inside the sunlit room, Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, were already waiting at a long wooden table. Their bearing radiated calm, regal authority and total command of the situation, a stark contrast to the intruder's wrath-filled face and disheveled hair. Without bothering to sit down, Camilla closed in on the table, slammed her hands onto the polished wood, and unleashed her fury with venomous words. She lashed out, branding William insubordinate, traitorous, and guilty of overreaching his authority by issuing an insolent eviction order. Camilla loudly proclaimed that King Charles himself had given his blessing for her absolute control over the lodge, and that any obstruction by William was a brazen rebellion against the sovereign's will. Observing William's impassive expression, Camilla quickly played her most dangerous trump card, refined over decades the weapon of the press. With a malicious sneer, Camilla claimed she held the editors-in-chief of the nation's top tabloids in the palm of her hand. With just one phone call or a leaked message, the pristine, picture-perfect image of the Wales family would be torn to shreds under sensational headlines, alleging bitter internal rifts, petty jealousy, and cruel plots against a stepmother. Camilla was convinced that the prospect of a worldwide reputational crisis would break William's resolve, forcing him to back down and revoke the eviction notice. She had completely misjudged the man sitting before her. William listened quietly to every single threat, without missing a word. As Camilla's shouting finally subsided, he did not raise his voice in return. He simply reached out and slid the thick evidence file, along with the original Windsor Lodge covenant, across the table toward his stepmother. Every damning page was exposed beneath the light, high-resolution photos of black trucks slipping through the side gate at 2:00 a.m., fraudulent receipts totaling hundreds of thousands of pounds, the roster of loyal staff arbitrarily dismissed, and most damning of all, the inventory list of sacred relics belonging to Queen Elizabeth II and Princess Diana crated away in the basement. William rose to his full height, his commanding stature and piercing gaze cutting straight through to his adversary's core. In a deep, resonant voice that carried immense weight, William delivered his verdict. The original occupancy deed was strictly conditional. Any act desecrating royal heritage, embezzling funds, or unlawfully removing treasures instantly triggered the forfeiture clause, enforceable solely by the Prince of Wales, without requiring the King's consent. Simultaneously, William dismantled Camilla's media threat with a devastating counterblow. He made it abundantly clear, if she dared whisper a single word to the press, the full surveillance footage capturing her covert operation to smuggle out the heirlooms of Princess Diana and the late Queen would be released directly to the world. When that happened, the public would tear away her aristocratic mask themselves, leaving her facing total and irreversible ruin. Every word from William landed like a sledgehammer against Camilla's pride. Staring at the indisputable evidence, the once unflappable Queen realized she was trapped in an inescapable vice. Her face drained from crimson to an ashen pale, her lips trembling, unable to form a coherent reply. Giving her no time to recover, William pointed directly toward the door and issued his final merciless ultimatum: by 8:00 a.m. tomorrow. All of Camilla's personnel had to vacate Windsor Lodge, and the final master key had to be surrendered on the handover tray. Should the deadline pass by even 1 minute, armed security would enforce a total lockdown, execute a forced eviction, and file formal criminal charges before the entire royal household. Staggering back a step, Camilla swallowed her bitter rage and fled the room, already hatching a reckless and desperate smuggling scheme for her final night. On the night before the deadline, darkness blanketed Windsor Lodge in a stifling, heavy tension. In the upper floor suites, amber lights burned through the night. Realizing that William's legal foundation was unbreakable and that the King's verbal assurances were useless, Camilla resolved to make one final reckless gamble. Driven by greed and refusing to leave empty-handed, she quietly instructed her closest aides to orchestrate an intricate heist under the guise of an ordinary move of personal effects. Under the urgent direction of her chief aide, the most priceless treasures were covertly extracted from interlocked vaults. The solid antique silver writing desk of the late Queen Elizabeth II was crudely wrapped in thick wool rugs. Dozens of mother-of-pearl silver frames bearing Princess Diana's image and invaluable royal oil paintings were stuffed deep between foam cushions and cardboard boxes labeled as winter clothing. Camilla calculated that the chaos of the morning handover and the bustling crowd of staff would create the perfect smokescreen, allowing the trucks to roll through the gates without anyone daring to search the belongings of a queen. At precisely 7:45 a.m., 3 large transport trucks roared to life in the inner courtyard. The moving crew hurriedly secured the rear latches. Moments later, the armored luxury sedan carrying Camilla glided out, taking the lead toward the main gates. In the back seat, Camilla adjusted her fur collar, a smug smile curling at the corner of her lips. She was convinced that William and Catherine would only dare watch from afar, and that the entire cache of priceless treasures would safely reach her family's private estate before noon. Yet just as the lead truck drew within meters of the massive iron gates, the entire escape crumbled. A piercing siren shattered the morning stillness. The multi-ton iron gates slammed shut with immense force, sealing off the only exit. Before the convoy could react, 4 black Royal Security tactical SUVs surged from the tree lines on either side, forming an iron perimeter that boxed in the front and rear of the convoy. Dozens of high-intensity floodlights flickered on simultaneously, casting blinding beams across the windshields and turning the gate area into a breathless tactical standstill. The command vehicle halted in front. Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, stepped out with commanding icy composure. Behind them stood not polite diplomats, but a fully equipped armed security detail, alongside independent antique appraisers armed with forensic scanning devices. Caught completely off guard, Camilla flew into a rage. Tearing her car door open, she stormed onto the pavement and marched toward William, her face flushed with fury. Shouting at the top of her lungs, Camilla invoked royal immunity and berated the security officers, threatening to strip the rank of anyone daring to obstruct her personal luggage. She shrieked that this was an intolerable insult to a queen and demanded the gates be opened immediately. Faced with this aggressive tirade, William did not budge an inch. Standing resolute, his eyes locked onto his stepmother, he gave a crisp, decisive signal to the inspection team. Immediately, royal protection officers moved in, using bolt cutters to snap the heavy cargo seals and hauling open the iron doors of the trucks. Before the stunned, silent gaze of the entire household staff guards and drivers, the camouflage blankets were ripped away. The gleaming antique silver writing desk of Queen Elizabeth II was exposed in the truck bed. Beside it, wooden crates filled with radiant silver frames of Princess Diana and carelessly stacked historic oil paintings were dragged into the daylight. Each priceless piece of evidence was laid out across the courtyard, exposing the brazen theft in broad daylight. Grasping at straws in desperation, Camilla abruptly shifted tactics, shamelessly, pinning all blame on the movers and her aide claiming she had no knowledge of how those items ended up in the trucks. The fatal blow struck in the very next heartbeat. Catherine stepped forward, holding up a tablet displaying high-definition surveillance footage captured at 5:00 a.m. On the screen, the evidence was undeniable. Camilla's chief aide, operating under her direct hand-gestured instructions as she stood by the window, was seen wrapping Diana's most precious keepsake box and stowing it directly into a private trunk. The total twist shattered any remaining escape route. Every lie and excuse dissolved before the irrefutable evidence. The security commander stepped forward, holding high the breach of covenant dossier, and declared firmly, unless the final private key was surrendered immediately on the spot, security would proceed with immediate formal criminal processing for everyone in the convoy. Trapped within the blinding floodlights beneath the scornful and horrified stares of dozens of witnesses, Camilla was stripped of all remaining pride. Her face contorted, her body trembling with overwhelming humiliation. With no avenue left to flee, the disgraced queen reached into her coat with a shaking hand and pulled out the gleaming gold key, her final symbol of control over Windsor Lodge, submitting to a bitter total defeat. The ornate gold key etched with the royal crest fell onto the silver tray held by the guard officer, emitting a sharp metallic ring in the suffocating silence. It was not merely the surrender of a piece of metal, but the exact moment marking the complete and humiliating collapse of the miniature empire Camilla had painstakingly built through greed and overreach. Standing before the stern eyes of the armed security detail and the disdainful gazes of the housekeepers she had once mistreated, the highest-ranking woman in the royal household withdrew her trembling hand, her shoulders sagging in profound disgrace. There were no reverent bows, no customary deferential greetings, nor any forced smiles. Prince William stood tall beside Catherine, his expression as unyielding as chiseled granite. He offered not a shred of pity, giving only a subtle nod to the security chief. Instantly, two senior officers stepped forward, flanking Camilla in a pincer formation, politely yet firmly gesturing toward the waiting black car. Under the strict watch of the royal guards, Camilla was forced to walk down the stone steps of Windsor Lodge for the final time. Her personal luggage was searched publicly in the courtyard, every trunk scrutinized down to its bottom lining, to ensure not a single heirloom or artifact was smuggled out. As the car doors slammed shut and the vehicle rolled past the main entrance, the towering iron gates swung closed behind it, permanently severing her right to step foot on the historic estate. The moment the villain's car disappeared behind the ancient oaks, William and Catherine swiftly moved to secure the public narrative, to forestall any attempts to distort the truth or play the victim through Camilla's media network. William issued a formal statement announcing that the Prince and Princess of Wales had taken direct control of Windsor Lodge to oversee the conservation of the family's priceless heritage. This swift, clean, and decisive public move sealed off every escape, reducing Camilla's prior threats to futile whispers in the dark. In the front courtyard, an emotional scene unfolded as the side gates swung open. Catherine personally descended the stone steps to welcome Arthur, the faithful butler of 30 years, alongside the entire loyal staff who had been mercilessly dismissed. Seeing the elderly butler, with hands worn from decades of service, moved to tears, Catherine respectfully returned his golden master butler badge, reinstating him and the entire household staff on the spot. Loyalty, dignity, and devotion were rightfully rewarded under the stewardship of true leadership. The restoration of the estate's dignified atmosphere commenced immediately under the personal oversight of William and Catherine. The wooden crates seized from the trucks were carried back into the Grand Hall by the security detail, each layer of protective wrap and seal removed with utmost reverence. The antique silver writing desk, the sacred wedding gift from the late Queen Elizabeth II, was solemnly carried in by 4 guards and placed back in its honored position in the main drawing room. Beside it, Arthur personally polished away every speck of dust from the jewel-encrusted mantel clock, gently placing it on the mantel and winding the mechanism so its steady ticking once again echoed through the halls, reaffirming the enduring nature of an unbroken heritage. Finally, Catherine received the velvet box containing Princess Diana's personal keepsakes from the security officer. With deep reverence and the heartfelt devotion of a daughter-in-law honoring a legacy, she carefully peeled back the tissue paper to reveal the brilliant silver frames capturing Diana's radiant smile alongside her 2 young boys. Catherine personally rehung each priceless oil painting onto the cleaned oak walls and arranged the silver frames across the warm fireplace mantel. William stepped up beside his wife, his gaze lingering on the portrait of his mother. Within the gleaming silver frame beneath the warm golden light, Princess Diana's timeless smile seemed to watch over every move of her children, radiating pride at the glorious triumph of truth and unwavering resolve. The shadow of greed and usurpation had been completely purged from Windsor Lodge, giving way to justice, honor, and order fully restored within the royal house. As William and Catherine demonstrate an unyielding authority to protect the late princess's legacy, do you believe the future of the monarchy now rests firmly in their hands? Caught between promises made to his current wife and the unvarnished truth of Princess Diana's violated heirlooms, how will King Charles face his own son? In a sea of videos, I am so glad YouTube managed to bring this one to you. We pour a tremendous amount of care into researching every single detail of these royal histories. I know using a TV remote takes a little extra time, but your likes and subscription are the ultimate motivation for our team to keep creating careful, high-quality stories for your screen. Thank you so much for your support.